Hi, everyone. This is Tatiana Judiez. I am hosting Thrive and Shine. This is a podcast specifically geared to giving out tools to people who are kind enough to listen to us, and also specifically on authentic power and conscious leadership and how we can embody those principles in our everyday life. So I have the immense pleasure of always having amazing guests. I'm really blessed since the beginning of this show. In September, I've had the privilege of having friends and mentors and coaches and all kinds of people who really are living proof of how they embody those principles in their life and how they shift also from at some point perhaps not being so conscious to deciding to live a conscious life or deciding to live more authentically. So what does that mean today with Suzanne Bernard? We have Suzanne from Montreal joining us on this show today, and I'm so thrilled. She is an HR expert. She is also a leadership coach. And here we go. Before I continue, here is Suzanne. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Tatiana.
So I'm so happy you're here with me today after, here I am in California, sunny California. I know you're envious. I know Montreal is really like slushy and crappy right now in terms of weather, not in terms of anything else, but just in terms of weather. And Suzanne and I have a long history. She was the head of the one department with whom I had a very meaningful relationship with my number one client in my past company, which was corporate housing in Montreal. And so Suzanne was the leader of that one department, and so that's how we met. And we've had this parallel path that we've engaged on. And here we are again. We've kind of followed each other, not intentionally, just really a little bit energetically without knowing, right? And so here you are. So I'm just, this is so cool. This is just so cool. So here you are. Today, you're no longer with Bombardier being that client. That was my number one major client in my past. And so what happened, I would love to go back with that position in your life. I would love to go back to you being that woman at the head of a really important department. I would like you to take us there, to tell us what you loved, what was challenging, how did you fare as a woman in this huge organization. It's a major, I mean, Bombardier is a plane maker and has a very important place in the world in terms of providing an economic revenue to Canada and Montreal. So tell us more about that and who you were then as that woman.
Yeah, so you're right. Bombardier was my dream job when I got there. And it's also, like you said, 20,000 jobs in Canada. So it's a large employer. It's not known much in the States other than the brand Learjet. But this is, I'm not talking, I don't want to make it an advertisement for Bombardier, but it was my dream job. A lot of people want to work there. Mm-hmm. And when we met, I was the head of the expatriation department there, mm-hmm. Which meant I was in charge of expatriating 400 people in 20 countries. And that's where I picked up for 5 years my international HR expertise. And I loved every minute of that job. And then I switched and I became an HR director, which was being basically a generalist. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And in that sense, it was quite different. But I made my mark by, first of all, a lot of my colleagues didn't have the international ability or agility because mm-hmm. it's quite complicated to do international stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I picked up a lot of tasks here and there. I always had a lot of interest for it. I did work in a engineering environment or male dominated environment, which was fine with me.
Hold on, what does that mean? We need to go a bit deeper here. What does that mean? It was fine with me.
Well, because I guess that's the way it was, and I didn't pay attention to it much. I evolved early on in my career in a more I would say female-dominated world. I worked in hospitals, and that's more of a woman world, and that was fine with me too, right? Because I'm adaptable, and I thought, well, that's one configuration, and then there's another configuration. I guess what I missed in the end, because I did stay 14 years with that particular company, I'm talking about Bombardier, back to the man world, basically, is I missed the diversity, right? But it wasn't that bad for me, because in fact, it was, the HR world was a woman's world, and my clients, the internal clients I was supporting as an HR director, they were mainly men, right?
Right.
So I kind of had the balance that way. But in terms of how the business is conducted, it was very much a male-oriented world, which still is, right? I left 3 years ago, and there were no women around the leadership table of the business unit that I was in after I left.
And so how was your leadership in that capacity, in that role? How was your leadership, meaning, what were your challenges? I mean, you are clearly saying you loved it and you're very adaptable. You missed the what is it called? Not adversity. Diversity.
Yeah.
You missed that. But how was your leadership? What were your challenges in the leadership?
I guess it's not necessarily that I am a woman. I'm going to answer what were your challenges. It was, in my case, I'm a listener, and sitting around a table of men speaking about business and being an HR person, it's not your subject. HR is rarely the subject around the table. It is, but it's not the main subject. It doesn't take up a lot of time. So I'm comfortable sitting and listening, and so I would listen and gain a lot of information about the business, about the people, about the relationships. I mean, today I walk into a room and I feel the room. I know what's going on. I can feel the relationships between the people, if it's going well, I understand within one meeting if this is a dysfunctional team, and how well or not, good or bad the relationships are. But then sometimes it was time for me to make a point, and I missed the mark. The subject was closed. It's like, if I want to be the last one to speak, well, I probably won't speak at all, because the subject is beat up, and then we want to move on, and I would miss it. Right? So they won't give you a moment to speak unless you take it.
Oh, and that's, I think, the challenge in us women, learning when to grab that moment and not ask for permission, because we typically tend to be asking for permission in terms of, asking for a raise or asking for whatever we want. We typically will hold our breath until we feel it's like the perfect time. And sometimes, as you just said it, we feel we're not ready, right? We feel we're not ready to make that leap and grab that moment, or grab the opportunity, or grab the raise, or whatever we want to grab. We tend to hesitate and think that maybe there's a better time, or maybe there is a better way, and we just don't go in and grab it.
Yeah, and maybe someone else has a better point than me, so I'm just going to let them speak.
It's doubt and hesitation, and it doesn't serve us at all. And if we just were to leap forward and take the chance, because we take the chance to also be perceived in a way that may not be exactly the way we want to be perceived, but hey, it's part of being authentic, right? It's part of just
Yeah, and
that leap as well.
yeah, and then you were saying you're not ready. So I'll tell you the ever repeating story of promotions for women. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so as an HR leader, I would sit around every year, I would sit around the table of that moment that is called high potential identification. The
Mm-hmm.
reason why we identify high potentials is because we know these people are seen to take leadership positions in the future.
Mm-hmm.
1 to 2 promotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
1 to 2 grades up. And so if these names are identified and discussed and agreed upon by a whole leadership team, and then we go and we meet this woman and we offer her the next promotion, or at least offer her to compete in the promotion recruitment,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what I get as an answer from these high potential women? They know they're high potential, so we come at them with a potential promotion.
Mm-hmm.
95% of them tell me I'm not ready.
Mm-hmm.
They would tell me that. They
Mm-hmm.
still do. I mean, they still do in informal moments that we talk to each other, right? And the men, they hear I'm not ready, right? So what do they do? The people who are giving the promotions are often men, but whoever's giving the promotion hears I'm not ready from this particular woman.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's someone else and someone else says I'm ready,
Mm-hmm.
whether they are or not, because that's subjective, it's subjective,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Then what happens is the focus shifts to the person who is ready,
Of course.
right?
Of course. And no one wants to feel like whoever they're going to appoint to that position, as employers, we don't want to feel like that person is genuinely thinking that she's or he is not ready. You pass.
Yeah, you
It's
pass.
automatic.
Especially when you go back and you tell the person, I want you to compete, and then they compete, and then they get to the interview and they still tell the interviewers that they don't feel ready.
Crap.
We never feel ready for a promotion because it is a promotion. It's a larger seat, it's more responsibilities, and it's something we've never done.
Right.
It's not like I'm going to go shovel the driveway.
Yeah, it's the unknown. So in your experience, I mean, I think it's important to talk about this because to me, it's part of the female qualities that are intrinsic to sometimes holding us back. I mean, those qualities that we have are serving us in great ways, and sometimes there is a shadow to that quality that is not serving us. So what is it, in your opinion, that makes those women believe, because it's a belief system, that they're not ready inside? What is it, in your opinion?
It's that they've never done this job, they've never held those responsibilities, and they're not 100% sure that they can do it. Okay?
And that's important. 100% sure is,
that you're going to be 100% able to perform at the level that is required of you. So you won't give yourself a chance, but they will, right? So when will you be ready? You've never held the position. When will you be ready? I would ask this question, when will you be ready? And then it would, turn, and you would see the person think and end up saying, well, I guess I have to try.
It's the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fear of not being performant to the level that is believed, that is expected of them, because they don't actually know for sure what is expected of them in and how they will fare through that performance. So they believe that they probably won't likely be able to perform at that level, but they don't really know for sure.
And the message is, if something is offered, go for it, whether it is the job itself or the possibility to compete for the job. If it is offered, go for it. You're not ready? Fine. Just try it. And think in your head that the other person, they might be just as not ready as you are.
Yeah.
So go. You don't know who the competition is. You never are told who else is being interviewed, right?
Exactly. And I think it's in my view, as you know, as an advisor to some powerful women, I see it as also a fear of not being perfect. I mean, we have an intrinsic fear as high achiever, women high achiever, of just wanting to be perfect all the time and achieve and excel and be the best, and it comes against our own development sometimes. I mean, it serves us in some points in our life, and then at some point it turns around and it kicks us in the butt, because it actually prevents us from moving forward. And so the fear of failure, the that want to be perfect, and not, you know, and not really going back, that ability to go back to your heart and go, how about if I really, like, what if I really want that, but I really don't know how? Like, what if vulnerably I can admit to myself, but maybe not to those interviewers, probably not the kid, you know,
not to the interviewers,
to say that to the interviewer. But what if I really want to try this? I really want to do this. Why don't I try? You know, like,
it's like you owe it to yourself to try.
Exactly. And yet it's like they're stuck in their head thinking, I'm not going to be this, I'm not going to be that. It's the fear of not being loved and being perfect and being accepted. And
think of it as well, in your current position, you are performing enough that you're identified as a high performer, right?
Yes.
So you're in control, you are performing, you are doing a, you know,
and you're being noticed,
and you know it, right? But then whatever's offered is, you don't know. And it's like that for everyone that's going for a promotion, right? So,
and on top of that, you're being celebrated to being brought into this competition of, you know, in between a few people for that one position. I mean, you're being supported, you're being identified as a high potential member or high potential employee. So it's sad. It really is sad. So let's just,
the reason I want to address, I'm talking about this with you, is because the women who tell me this or say this, they don't realize what they're doing to themselves, the damage they're doing.
Correct.
And the men or women who are hearing it, they don't realize that this response is mostly a woman's response.
It is.
Yeah. Like the guys, they don't say that. The guys, they've been, you know, harassing their boss and whoever else to get that promotion. They've been very clear that they wanted to be a director by the time they're 28 and a VP by the time they're 34.
Right.
They've been very clear about that. And they've been very clear about how much money they wanted and the level of bonus and the car and everything. Very clear.
Yeah. But men have typically a higher level of confidence, and we have, in society, we're conditioned, right? I mean, it sounds old and corny, but it's unfortunately still true that men definitely also, to add to the conditioning in society, which says, you know, go for it, like, you know, just beat it up kind of attitude, like just go, you know, like just kill it. Actually, they say that, right? And it comes from a warlike type of language and behavior. Just kill it, just go, you know. And they have no idea half of the time how. And yet we are so driven by the how.
Yes.
And when we unfortunately, as women, let the how dictate how we're going to move forward. And it's unfortunate, because
if we're going to move forward,
we're going to move forward. So and women were typically told very subtly. It's not a direct a conversation that anyone has with us when we're growing up, but we're typically told silently that, you know, to be that direct and to be that forward and to be that fierce, it's actually not a good thing for women, because you're not going to be looked at in a positive light. You're not going to be considered so feminine. But I believe that there is a way that we can be fiercely feminine. It's just a question of really owning it and knowing how to engage with certainty, not aggressivity, but
in our own way.
Exactly.
Personality.
Exactly. But we're typically kind of conditioned to not be that direct and forward and, to kill it, because it's a man thing to kill it. So it's unfortunate, and we need to be aware of that tendency, because it's just a tendency and it's just a belief. There's nothing holding us back from, just like you say, trying and just moving forward in a way that also tests us, because we need to step above the fear of discomfort, because we're always going to have discomfort in our life. I mean, especially if we want to achieve all kinds of stuff and accomplish all kinds of stuff and be more in our life, we're always going to be facing discomfort and fear. So
and it's like, jump even if you don't have the total security net.
Well, so yeah, I mean, we were talking a little bit about this prior to jumping on our Zoom call for this podcast. Is this subject, is that jumping forward to put ourselves in a position of discomfort, and that position where we dance with the fear, because life is a dance. I mean, we're never going to know exactly what unfolds, what we can't control anything. We think we do, but we can't, right? So where did you learn that? Where did you learn that we have a choice to move forward? We have a choice to move forward, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's scary. And to actually, I think today you probably do support these women to jump forward and put themselves in that situation. How did that come about in your life for you to realize that?
I think I realized it in my head, like theoretically, that we don't choose what happens to us, but we choose how we are going to react to it and how we're going to survive something that's not fun, like my parents being sick or parents dying or something like that is something you don't want to happen, and it happens. And I knew I had to go through stuff like that. But then, everything else was pretty safe. I had a job, I had a salary coming in every other Thursday, and I was doing good, and I was having fun, and my career was growing. So it was just easy, right? And then in December of 2015, I went the very last meeting before going to the Christmas holidays in December. My boss took us apart, like her direct reports, and she told us that what was coming for the company in 2016 was 7,000 layoffs.
Oof, that's a lot of people.
This is public knowledge. It was publicly announced that these were the layoffs that this corporation, 30,000 employee corporation, was going to be doing in 2016, and that it was going to be layered over the whole year. So basically my outlook as an HR director was to lay off people.
Oh my God.
I had made my mark, and I had made my reputation, and I had the fun of my life all these years by doing large recruitment efforts. I went with my teams, the different teams I have led. I went across the world to get some engineers, aerospace engineers, which are difficult to find in all kinds of specific disciplines. And then what was proposed to me was to basically undo what I had such a hard time to do for many years, right? So that like completely depleted me. I went home depleted, and I couldn't, for the 2 week vacation that the Christmas shutdown was offering us, I couldn't bring myself to actually bringing this kind of suffering to all these families, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, if that's what I'm supposed to be doing, I mean, layoffs are a part of a reality for HR people, but they can't be the only thing we do, right? In my sense, I can't be doing just that. That's not, that's has no, it's not good for humanity. It's not good for any, I just I disagreed with it fundamentally. And I thought, I can't do this. I couldn't get up in the morning and go to work. And it was getting heavier as January passed. It was getting heavier and heavier to go to work. So I decided that I was going to quit, just quit. But then I decided that quitting was going to be an opportunity to go for my dreams.
Yay, I love that. And you remembered you had a choice.
Yes, I had a choice because I could have done it, and like a lot of people do it, I could have done it, and it would have been over within a year, perhaps. I couldn't know that at that time, whether it was going to last or not. But the choice I exercised was to say, okay, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get sick over it, because that's what happens to people who do work they don't like, right? So I'm in HR, so I saw people not come to work because they were sick.
And they were sick because they just weren't in the place where they really felt like they belonged, and the place where they loved doing what they thought they should be doing in their life.
Or the relationship with the boss was bad, or the relationship with the colleagues was bad. And so that's stuff. People go to work every day in North America, in the world, and the statistics are scary on how many people are totally disengaged and unhappy and want to leave their job, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so it's important. It's actually not important. The word is not even strong enough, but it's literally vital for anyone to remember that we have a choice, and we have a choice to, some people I think are scared by the word dreams because they actually believe that they're not entitled to live their dream, or they're not capable of even creating a dream, or that it's just not going to happen. And it's fallacy, right?
They're not ready.
Or that they're not ready. But it begins with, besides all of that, because that's another subject, and we could talk for another hour about that, about believing in one's dream, and believing that we owe it to ourselves to create the life we want. This is why I'm in California. That, many people have deemed totally crazy, totally risky,
difficult
and challenging and expensive, and you can call it whatever you want. Point is to remember we have a choice, and that we are the only ones who are responsible for the life that we are living. So if you live a crappy life, you have a choice to there are circumstances that are hugely difficult, right? People who are in poverty, people who are sick, but there is still in that everyday life a little seed of choice and possibility. And that could be maybe just looking for one thing to be grateful for that one day. And just that could bring us a little bit of joy, just a little bit, for the ones who are stricken by terrible circumstances. I don't discount that. But for others who are in a position like you, like me, where, we have a choice, right?
And exercising the choice, at the moment of exercising the choice, it feels like you're throwing yourself off a cliff.
Yes, it feels like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. It feels like, what did I do?
What the hell? And it still feels like that sometimes.
My when I gave my resignation, I gave my boss 2.5 months before I actually left, right? Because I didn't want to just wonk, clunk out and just leave them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then in those 2.5 months, I remember of two separate occasions where I sat down in my living room and I cried. What did I do? You know, I'm gonna miss these people. I love this company. I love this job. What did I do? You know, and I still have a good feeling inside of me about this company and this job and this past part of me, but I have an even stronger, more powerful feeling of I'm actually following my dream to be an entrepreneur. You know, launching a business and doing things on my own, and I have no security net. You know, I'm on my own and I'm just totally, sometimes I'm having a scary day and sometimes I'm having a flying day.
Yeah.
That it's more roller coaster.
That's the life of an entrepreneur. Absolutely. And it's not easy because sometimes it brings loneliness, but that's temporary and it's also a perception of ours. But where did you learn to remember to have a choice? Where did you learn in your life that it's important to keep that choice for yourself?
I don't know, actually. It's just events that happened and I decided this is me. I'm taking it into my own hands. I guess autonomy and independence were two values in my upbringing. And my mother, I believe she didn't have a choice because she was a single mom and low income. So maybe she felt like she didn't have a choice. And she worked and worked and worked in a job that ended up making her sick, burnout, depression, you know, pretty heavy metal stuff, you know.
So you were privy to this. This is shaping. This moment is shaping in people's lives. So that was a shaping moment for you to witness and watch her in pain like this.
Yeah, pain from work, right? So of course it's not 100% work or only one reason, but without getting into, you know, private lives of life of my mom, it was mainly work that made her sick, and she ended up retiring sick. So the conclusion of her career was she had great fun with the women at work. She was good at what she was doing, but she wasn't appreciated by the company or the boss, and made her sick, and it made her retire on a bad note. Today she's fine, but it took a long time to come back. And that's not the only example I have in my family of people who hung on to a job because of the benefits, because of the retirement, because of the stability and the perceived security. Right?
Perceived security, that's an important distinction.
Perceived security, because a job is putting all your eggs in the same basket, and then someone can take away the whole basket in one day. Yeah. As an entrepreneur, nobody can take away all my clients or all of my livelihood in one day.
No.
That doesn't happen to me, right?
No.
So I don't see job as being safe anymore the way I used to when I was in a job, and I don't miss it. I'm an entrepreneur today. I don't feel I should go back to having a salary to ease that, you know, roller coaster life of an entrepreneur, right? So I believe she didn't believe she had the choice, and she put herself through, you know, hard stuff at work, and maybe I took it in from there, you know. I don't know.
Well, like I said, I think those moments shape us and teach us for ourselves what we decide further in our life, and the perceived security, I think that's such a great way of saying it, because it's a perception, and perceptions are based on what we choose to believe and what we choose to tell ourselves as part of our story that sustains that perception is we keep telling ourselves things that continue the perception, continue to support the perception.
Yeah.
And security, there is very little security within a company, because anything can happen. And that goes also with perhaps a intimate relationship. I mean, there is only so much that you can fall back on when you are attached to that security. So the detachment and taking back the power for ourselves, and knowing that, back to your point at the beginning, or your quality at the beginning, you said, I'm adaptable. I think being adaptable is not only a natural and organic feminine trait, but it's just a quality in general that anyone should really nurture, because adaptability it just allows us to bounce back and forth from, one situation to another. And sometimes it's a bad situation, and then you bounce back into a good situation. It matters to be adaptable.
Yeah, and I find that adaptable means that you're not doing any drama,
Interesting distinction as well. Okay.
Yeah, because if you're dramatic and you're going down, because of something, that means you're not adaptable, right?
Correct.
You're going up and down with the situations that are like life is happening to you,
and not for you,
and not from
yep.
me, from the inside out, right? So
right.
if we can take away a bit of that drama, I think it helps.
Absolutely. Well, the drama part is attachment to, again, it's, as part of this conversation about detachment from the story that we tell ourselves that sustains us in a position in our life that is perceived secure. I mean, being able to detach from drama is detaching from suffering. This drama is suffering. It's an addiction. I mean, there is so much out there, unfortunately, that is all about drama, and there is nothing really positive, fulfilling, and growth and growth based in drama. Right?
I agree.
And so today, in the work that you do today, you are an HR expert, of course, because you've been in that role for a long time. You are a leadership coach under your own banner, your own company. What would you say today is the number one recommendation you would make to people in terms of how to move forward with?
The thing I do a lot, like almost daily with coaching clients, is we work on the quality of their relationships. It sounds really basic. It sounds really,
No, it's not. It's so not. You're absolutely right. I mean, I'm going to quote Tony Robbins right here, because he's one of my mentors, and he always says the quality of your relationships reflects the quality of your life.
There you go. And you see, I've seen a lot of very highly technical, cognizant people in their field lose their job on the lack of quality of their relationships. Lack of ability to get along with colleagues, lack of ability to be a good leader to their direct reports, and or lack of getting along with their boss. So it's up, boss, lateral, your colleagues, and your direct reports. Those are the relationships at work. And then there's relationships perhaps with people from outside. So knowing how to have a relationship with your suppliers, with your customers, and perhaps in different jobs with the media or with the unions, right? So there's all kinds of relationships to be nurtured. And it gets to a point in your career when you move, I feel, beyond manager. It starts at manager, but when you move beyond manager at director, VP, and other levels, if you didn't understand your impact on others and how impacting others is not always in the same fashion, and how leading people is you don't lead everyone the same way. They're all different,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that
Adapting to that.
that exactly, it's a subtlety, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
subtlety of how I interact, the subtlety of how I lead, you know, the subtle information that comes in that I should be able to decode, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a leader, I should be able to decode what's going on. So if I'm a leader in a sales position, I should be able to decode or understand my customer. Is my
Mm-hmm.
customer following me? Is my customer still interested in my pitch? Is my customer mad at me or bored or, you know?
And that relates to presence as well.
Yes.
To learn how to be more conscious, more present. That's something that is a huge tool in leadership and in business, because we can see examples of that so much. I witness it all the time through networking events where people come in and they're so busy, so driven to tell you about what they do and who they are, and they shake your hand, and
Yeah.
men and women.
And they shove their business card or they shove their
Exactly.
pitch at you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Sometimes
And
I spend the whole evening listening to other people and realizing that if I wait for them to listen to me, then I don't speak because they're not there to listen. They're there to make sure they talk to everyone.
yeah, and it's a mechanism. Instead of simply just enjoying the process and enjoying the presence, of getting to know people, reading the subtlety, reading the signs, knowing how to practice relating to people, which is really all about listening, being present. Eventually, people are going to ask you what you do because they're amazed at the fact that you're just sitting there giving them all your attention and asking powerful questions. And all of a sudden they're like, well, what do you do?
What about you?
And that to me is more impactful.
Yeah, it's what you want to have, like between you and me. Let's say what I want to happen, and then there's what you want to happen, and then there's what wants to happen. You know, there's something in between that wants to happen, and it is the combination of you and I, right?
Right.
So if you put that in a team or in a group, there's something that wants to happen.
Right.
And
exactly.
That's perceivable, but it's not perceivable with one of the five senses. And those are the things that I would have loved to have learned earlier in my life, that nobody told me about in school, in family, in work, at work. But I had the ability to perceive, right? And I'm not the only one. A lot of people are like that, but it's like I perceive it and then I discard it. Well, because I wasn't taught.
That's right. Exactly.
To analyze it and to pay attention to it. You know.
And it's focusing on the quality. I was going to say the opposite. It's focusing on the quality of that moment and that exchange with that one person, instead of focusing on the quantity of how many people you can meet or how many goals you can or items you can scratch out for a meeting. It's really giving importance to what is the perception of that moment and what do we need to focus on together, collectively or alone, so that there is an outcome of the intention. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And it's also the intention. If we're conscious enough to voice our intentions, either at the beginning of, like, I sat in meetings for so many hours, so my reference is always meetings. So at the beginning of a meeting, can we actually state our intention?
Voice
not the agenda, not what I want to get done, but what is my intention, which is one step back. And then at the end of the meeting, are we complete?
Exactly.
Has everyone had the chance to say what they have to say? And is everybody, do we understand? Did we speak? Were we heard? are we complete? That's what are we complete means, right? It's one question, but it encompasses these three things.
Exactly. And so are you able to bring that level of conscience and presence to the meetings that you attend with your clients today? Are companies, are people shifting and being able to be with you on that level?
When I do group coaching, I bring them the proposal of doing that, right? And I give the example, and I sit in meetings and observe one, two, three observations, and then I make proposals. And I have to do that gently because I'm like an outsider to the group, right? As their coach, I'm supposed to be there to observe, and then I coach them individually. That's how I conduct my group coachings. I don't actually coach in a group setting. I make interventions. I ask them to speak on things, but I don't actually coach them in the group. I coach them separately, individually. But in the group, I will propose. Okay, I will propose the opening here today will be a roundtable on give the group your intentions, and I will propose the close, which will be to close a meeting. We want to make sure everybody's complete, so let's do a roundtable. Are you complete? Am I complete? Are they complete? Right? And so it opens up the dialogue, and when as a team you're able to speak, you create trust. And
correct.
Every single team that I've met that was a dysfunctional team, the underlying issue or the root cause is always trust. I haven't seen other root causes. There's other root causes is, oh, we don't understand each other, we don't have enough time, not the right process and structures, but oh, well, the relationships aren't that good in the team. And then you go down one more level. It's a trust issue. It's usually 3 to 5 levels underneath the surface.
Correct.
Is a trust issue when we're talking about a dysfunctional team. And so if I'm able to help them have a healthy dialogue, then the trust, instead of deteriorating, will build.
So as we are almost wrapping up, which is always an amazement to me whenever I have awesome guests, because the 50 minutes go by so fast. So we need to wrap up, and I want to thank you for contributing to this platform, to Thrive and Shine, to bring your beautiful, authentic self. And I want to finish by asking you, what is your dream?
My dream is to help as many people as I can through my work as a coach, and through my work as I'm currently creating online courses on different leadership skills that reflect the many conversations I have on a one-on-one basis with my coachees, right, or my clients. Because I realized that if I have a one-on-one conversation, we build something, for example, the capacity to have difficult conversations. Well, why not package this and help more than one person at a time through online digital courses, right? So my dream is to build that, to be able to help a lot more people than I can as an individual. And I would also like to help a lot of women to build their own business. And I'm thinking through microfinancing help. Okay. Has always been a very, I'm very curious about microfinancing and the power it has in the different societies where it's been widely used. So I'm looking into that right now.
Perfect. Well, I support your dream. And if I can serve you in any way, shape, or form to make your dream happen, because I'm a big believer in dreams, and I think we all ought to follow our dream and make it happen to the best of our abilities. So thank you so much for being part of us today.
Thank you.
And for embodying all these beautiful principles in authenticity and conscious leadership. So lots of love to you, Suzanne. See you soon. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Bye, Tatiana. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.